Good morning, Bucknutters. Welcome to the Bucknuts Morning 5 here on Friday, February 7th, 2025. I am Dave Biddle. I'll be joined by Mr. Jonah Booker in just a moment. We have a lot to get into. It's a Ohio State coordinator-themed edition of the Friday Five-ish. We are going to take a close look at whether or not we think Brian Hartline is going to call plays, or whether Ryan Day is going to call plays, whether they're going to kind of be like a collaborative effort, or will it be like 2 years ago where Hartline had the title of coordinator, but Day called all the plays? Curious to get Jay Book's thoughts on that. What's going to happen with defensive coordinator? Are they waiting for a certain game to end this Sunday before they make a move? Could they be co-coordinators with maybe someone from the outside and someone currently on the staff? Curious to get Jay Book's thoughts on that. Before we get to that, I'll let you guys know, I love Gooder sunglasses. I highly recommend Gooder sunglasses. Highly recommend them. I've talked about them a lot. They've got a customer in me, $25 sunglasses. Their most expensive ones are $35. So, I'm a big Operation Blackout fan. So go to Gooder. We can get you guys a good deal, and it helps us out too, because when you help our sponsors, it helps us. If you want to support the show and try a pair, Gooder is giving Bucknuts Morning 5 listeners free shipping. You can go to gooder.com/Bucknuts. Use code Bucknuts for free shipping. Gooder offers a 30-day money-back guarantee and 100% satisfaction. Again, that's gooder.com/Bucknuts. Use code Bucknuts for free shipping. And now, with no further ado, let's welcome in the man, not the myth, the legend, Jonah Booker.
Hello.
Happy Friday, sir. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing great. I'm doing fantastic. I'm still basking. I'm still basking in the glow. Yeah, a lot to get into, man. I'm curious. Let's just start off. Do you think Hartline's going to call the plays?
I do. I do think Hartline's is time to go, Brian. You've been here 9 years now. When you add in the years he was kind of like an analyst, so it's time to go. I do think that he's going to actually legitimately get his swing of the bat. And this is why I say that. Ryan Day just won a national championship, realizing that he needed to be a CEO of the program. He knows it's in the best interest of the program to take a step back, oversee everything. When you have this much turnover on the staff right now, the last thing that the program needs is for Coach Day to be bogged down in the offensive meeting rooms only. And I will make an argument, because he was a CEO this year and had to specifically get involved with the defense. I think that was kind of the linchpin to them winning the national championship, because if he didn't get involved, who knows if they would have kind of revamped that defense. But I think this is going to be Brian Hartline's baby. I think it's going to be his opportunity to really shine. And with the offensive line coach that they're bringing in from Virginia Tech, who was an offensive coordinator at VTech, he's going to probably assist Brian with the run game concepts and kind of be that run game coordinator, with Ryan Day being the overseer, making sure that the offense is humming correctly.
I like it. And now is the time. You're right. They won a national title. Not that, we can just coast through next year and put it on cruise control, but now's the time for Hartline. I know he's had the title. It's interesting to say he got promoted offensive coordinator. He never lost the title offensive coordinator. He had it in 2013, even though he didn't call plays. Yeah. And even this past season with Chip Kelly, it wasn't co-offensive coordinator with Hartline. His title was offensive coordinator / wide receivers coach. But this is different. And if things don't go well, we know Day's going to be heavily involved regardless. And for some reason, things aren't going well with Hartline calling plays, Day would just take over.
Yeah. So that's kind of the blessing that you have, that you got a premier play caller, one of the best in the country, that's your head coach, that at any moment he can just go ahead and grab that play sheet and start dialing it up. The one thing I do hope that they do, Dave, is I hope Chip left that run game playbook behind to say, hey, thank you guys. Here's the blueprint to the run game, and go ahead and leave it at that. But I do think that I'm curious, though, because we saw Ohio State have 2 1,000 running backs this year. Now, with the wide receiver core that you have, you still feel really good about Jeremiah, Carnell, Ennis, Mylan Graham, 5-star, who they're really high on coming up. Now you add Max Clare, the tight end from Purdue, who is a guy that can actually stretch the field for you. So you have a plethora of guys that can catch the football and make things happen. Will they kind of transition a little back to that CJ Stroud type of playbook with Julian Sand? Because you're not going to be asking Sand to really make a lot of damage with his legs. So do we kind of see that Stroud playbook? The only thing that I hope is when it comes to the run game that we're not as primarily zone scheme when it comes to running, because I don't think we're really good at that. What we saw is when we can get a hat on a hat, get upfield, a little gap, a little power, a little counter action. That's when we really saw that running game. That was something that Chip brought to the table. We did do some zone, but we were a primary zone running scheme. They don't operate as efficient in that run scheme. So hopefully that Brian kind of keeps those same principles that Chip was able to implement this year.
Got some people that are in the chat that are excited to see Julian saying. All right, before I ask you about defensive coordinator, what you think is going to happen there, I think I have a pretty good idea. I bet you do as well. As we are wont to do, I think we're thinking along the same wavelengths, my friend. Julian saying, I mean, I know it's not, 100% he's going to be the starter. It's about 99.9, right? What do you expect out of Julian saying? How excited are you to see him take over?
Yeah, I think he's going to be the starter. When you listen to a lot of the players talk about Sand, they talk about how high his ceiling is. He just needs to really learn the game. But the biggest thing that a lot of people talk about is how he can spin it, how he has such an arm talent. I know a lot of people, naysayers, are going to nitpick the one throw in the playoff game when he comes in not warmed up. But when he's operating the full scale of the offense and he's able to kind of take the bull by the horns, I truly believe that you could probably see something special as far as his passing ability. There's a reason why he was a 5-star. He was the number one quarterback on Ryan Day's board all through that entire cycle. Like, they really wanted Sand bad. And Nick Saban came in there and said, that's my guy. He's that good of a quarterback prospect. Now, here's the thing, the beautiful thing about Ohio State, Dave, whoever is at the quarterback position, you have the best weapons in all of college football. So as long as you can stay upright and put the ball in a reasonably accurate vicinity of those playmakers, you should be able to do fairly well as the quarterback here.
Yeah. I mean, even I know McCord had a good statistical year, his year at Syracuse, but I say even McCord, I did want to couch it, had good stats under Ryan Day. I mean, you play quarterback under Ryan Day, you're going to put up good stats. It's just a matter of how good. What Dwayne Haskins have 50 touchdowns, almost 5,000 yards. Justin Fields was pretty good. Will Howard went from a guy that struggled to keep his job a couple different times at Kansas State, and they're saying, oh, Avery Johnson's better than him, to having a fantastic year. Will Howard turned into like Joe Burrow in the playoffs. And, that's my guy. I don't say that lightly. He's not Joe Burrow, but in the playoffs, he was like Joe Burrow-esque. I don't think that's hyperbole. Will Howard was dropping dimes out there. So, then was showing his mobility as well, not just with the QB run that he showed against Notre Dame where he ran 16 times, but keeping plays alive. I still can't believe how well he played in the playoffs, man. And JT Tuimoloau on defense. So JT had 6 sacks during the regular season, solid, right? Then his 6.5 sacks and like 12 tackles for loss in 4 playoff games. JT just turned into the beast that we all wanted, Yeah. Awesome.
I mean, all of those guys, when you look at it, a lot of those veterans, they made themselves a crap ton of money, Dave. The way that they played down the stretch. I mean, that was the biggest thing, because we were watching them all throughout the season, and you're like, they're good, they're solid, but you're not really seeing quite that dominance takeover performance that is in there. And then all of a sudden the playoffs hit, and you're like, here we go. That's what we've been talking about. I knew that was in there. I knew that was in their system. And to see how well that those veterans play down the stretch, that's why I'm excited. Like, the NFL draft, I love NFL draft season. It always gets me, intrigued. This year, I'm going to be locked in because as I'm starting to trend towards following what's going on with the draft, you're seeing the NFL personnel really starting to dive into Ohio State's tape. And it's kind of funny because we always watch the games every Saturday, follow all of the news. Now you start to see the NFL guys like, oh, Emeka Egbuka, probably the best route runner in all of college football. I got him pegged as a first round, and we're all sitting there like, no shit, Sherlock. Like he's just only the all-time wide receiver leader in Ohio State history, a 5-star coming out of high school, extremely polished, can really set the edge when it comes to blocking. Like, of course he's the first rounder, but I always find it hilarious that the NFL guys are kind of late to the punch because they don't watch a lot of college ball. They just start watching tape once the season's over.
It's going to be really interesting if Ohio State can break Georgia's record of 15 players drafted. That was 3 years ago. So that 2021 Georgia team, so it was the 2022 draft. So, 3 years ago, Georgia had 15. Until then, as we know, Ohio State held the record with 14. That was in 2004. Basically the crux of the 2002 national championship team, because a lot of those guys were juniors on that national championship team. I can think about 14 locks. So it's going to come down to whether guys, and I think G. Scott Jr. will be. He's not one of my 14 locks, but I think G. Scott Jr. will get taken late. But that's one to keep an eye on. Josh Fryer's another one that could be a bubble. But
I think Fryer's definitely going. I think Fryer helped himself.
I agree, man. So that right there gives them 16. And there's one more that I'm not thinking of right now. But anyway, I have 14 absolute locks. I think everybody would agree with. And I think I'd put the over under at 15.5, and I'd probably take the over. I think they're going to get 16.
Yeah. Hey, I will say this. If anyone from Ohio State is listening to us, make sure Ryan Day is at the draft both nights, the first round and the second round, because that will be an incredible recruiting pitch to all high school players to say, hey, you want to be able to have Coach Day to get some type of airtime, a little camera time, because if you're able to break the all-time draft score, like players drafted, that's a tremendous honor. And on top of that, you can go into any kid in America's living room and say, you come here, we're not only going to take care of you NIL-wise, but that's a drop in the bucket what you can make at the next level, because we're developing guys to get into the NFL. And then you add on to the top that Ohio State has like the average GPAs like over like 3.2, something like that, as far as the team GPA. So you can also use that angle to pitch to the moms like, hey, we play some big boy football here. We're going to take care of your son and the family financially, but more importantly, we're going to make sure that they're in class, they're getting good grades, and they're all going to have the support, especially the mental health. So that's why I'm like, get Ryan Day at the NFL draft stage so that he can really sell the program and point out to these kids like, come here, we're going to get you to the league.
That's a great call, and I imagine he will be. But if not, maybe I'll help pass along that message, because
get it to Jerry.
That'll just be, what's that?
I say get it over to Jerry.
I might get it to Jerry. I might even go higher than that. We'll see.
Yeah. Look at my man Dave. You got the pull, Dave. You got the pull.
Maybe I'll break out the bat phone. Go straight to the top. We'll see. Because it's such a good idea, and I love that idea. And man, it's crazy. You hit on it. They recruit 5-star young men. 5-star players, obviously, but these guys are like 5-star young men. Knock on wood here. I almost like don't want to say this, but I have to say it because, man, when's the last time an Ohio State player got in trouble? Watch somebody get like a DUI tonight or something, now that I'm saying this. But like, seriously, Ryan Day, they win the national championship. The only thing that they're doing, like, really off the field, they're getting like, people baptized. I mean, these guys are just like first class. Whatever you think of religion, whether you love it or you're not into it, it just shows the humility of these guys and that they're just good people. And I just can't say it enough, man. I mean, you have guys that are just like, I just say it again. I'm going to repeat myself. They're 5-star players, but they're 5-star young men too. And it's so impressive what Ryan Day has done here. I'm so happy he got his contract extension yesterday. That was, we knew that was going to happen. You're not going to make him what was he, like the 20th highest paid coach or something? Maybe he was higher than that. But now he's the second highest paid behind only Kirby. And it makes a lot of sense, man. If you're having a legit debate over who's the best head coach in college football right now, it's a two-man debate. Yeah, I know Dabo's won 2 national championships, but he's fallen off since then. So really happy for Ryan Day. And I'm glad you brought that up because these guys are – it's just so impressive to play at the highest level as possible in college football and still have – there's not a troublemaker on the entire team. They're all – and it's the opposite of that. They're all absolute young CEOs on this team. It's so
it's kind of funny, and I got 2 points I want to make when you talk about the character of the team, and I thought it was hilarious during the preseason, Dave, and you guys you went over there, talked to the players, and said, hey, just shooting the shit, hey, what do you guys like to do in the off season? These guys are out golfing. and I thought that was hilarious because
going to church and golfing. Yeah, they're like old men. Yeah,
they're kind of like old man. It's great that these guys have the amount of money that they're making in college to where they're basically a traveling squad of guys that's going around from course to course all around the Columbus area to go golfing. And it's not like 1 or 2 of them. It's like a whole gang of them that are really into golfing. And I'm thinking to myself, I was like, what a very mature team to where, back in the days, you were like, hey, stay out of the bars. If you do go out, be responsible. Don't drink and drive. Don't get into any fights. And here you are saying, hey, try not to golf too much so that you guys don't wear yourself out for summer conditioning. That's just type of the mindset that they have. And I'm just like, it's pretty fascinating. But on the Ryan Day side, I mean, the social media always jokes and says cocaine Dave arrived for the playoff, meaning that a guy that was just absolutely out of his mind. I think we're probably just seeing the scratch of the surface with him, Dave. And here's the reason why I say that. I'm dropping my kid off at school or something like that, and it's 3 or 4 days post national championship. He's on College Football XM radio show, right? And they're talking to him, and congratulations. He goes, hey, it's great, feels good, but I am laser focused for number 2. And I almost had to pull over because I had a huge smile on my face, and I go, he's crossed the bridge. Yeah. He now has held the gold trophy, and he's now crossed over to that relentless mentality and ruthless mentality that it takes. He got a taste of that number 1, and now he wants number 2. Once he starts talking about being up there with the greats as far as chasing multiple national championships, that's when I was like, oh yeah, he is dialed in, and he has crossed into that kind of that urban maniac mentality, Dave. Hopefully he can find that balance. But once you start hearing coaches say, I want that number 2, and they got the taste of it, and they were able to hold that gold trophy, that tells me that he is going to do everything that he can above board to bring another national championship. And you don't get that. Only 3 coaches in the game right now has crossed that bridge. And those coaches are doing everything. They will fight, they will claw to get their program to the point to have another trophy race. And I think that's where we're at with Ryan Day. That's why I say I think we're just now scratching the surface, because before it was always he's close. There's something missing. There's something not there that's getting him over the hump. Now that he has crossed over and he has climbed that mountain and he's gotten over the hump, to hear my coach say, I'm laser focused on number 2. Hey, let's go. Let's go, Dave.
I love that. And people in the chat love it as well. He's crossed the bridge. Very well said. You can just tell he's got the weight of the world off his shoulders now. He's even richer, and he's a legend in Columbus, Ohio forever. I mean, the idea that there has been 5 head coaches to win a national championship at Ohio State. And the list is so impressive. Paul Brown, Woody Hayes, Jim Tressel, Urban Meyer, and Ryan Day. How cool is that? And now for him, you're right, man. When I heard him say that, like he's not just taking the victory lap, he's doing he's taking the victory marathon, and I love it. And he's like, and now it's time to win another one. It's like, hell yeah, man. Love you. It's like when Urban first took over and when they had the call-in show and everybody would end, like they'd call in and be like, I love you, man. I mean, that's just how I feel. It's just, love the guy. He's a legit good man, like a great man. Right. And now he has cemented himself as one of the top 2 coaches in college football. And I wouldn't trade him for Kirby Smart. I think he's the best head coach because of the culture we're talking about. You don't see Ohio State players out here doing fast and furious like the Georgia players. As I said, knock on wood again, but it's amazing. We've gone how long have we gone since there's been like an incident with an Ohio State player? And I'm not going to throw anybody specifically under the bus because I'm sure we all had some fun when we were in college, but there was a time not too long ago, maybe like 10 years ago, where like if you went to Little Bar on the weekend, you were going to see like half the football team there. So these guys, it's just so damn impressive, the culture that he's built. And now he's got a natty. He's crossed that bridge, my friend, as you said.
Yeah, he has a natty. So he's already cemented himself into the College Football Hall of Fame. When you look at the overall winning percentage, he has the highest winning percentage right now in the history of college football for first-time coaches starting out. So that right there is a plus. And you can tell me, Dave, if I'm wrong. I've heard that even though there were multiple job openings this cycle, and that's to be expected because when you come off a national championship, everybody's going to want a piece of your staff all the way down to the support staff. But I heard there was a ridiculous amount of interest from all across the NFL and college football with coaches wanting to be a part of what Ryan Day's building. And when you have that widespread of an interest to be coach to be a part of a program that he has built, that speaks volumes. And we talked about it last week with Carlos Lachlan, and Lachlan praised him about how much support he gives him. He's going to get on you, and he's going to push you as a coaching staff, but he gives his coaches a lot of leeway to kind of use their personality how they see fit. He doesn't want them to be robots. And the one knock that we heard, Dave, previously is this was a country club mentality over there.
That's right.
Kind of coming off that Urban Meyer era. Yep. A lot of people talked about how it was a country club mentality. And the thing that Ryan Day has done is he's done it his way. And I know a lot of us we admire the ruthlessness and the cutthroat that Urban brought in the no nonsense type of mentality. But Ryan won doing it his way. And that's a testament to him. And you can't help but respect the man for doing it his way and winning and getting to the highest pinnacle. And not only did he get to the highest pinnacle, he had the hardest route in the history of college football with the 12-team expansion in the bracket that they were in. So that's where I'm at. It's like, hey, when you got coaches all over the game wanting to kind of be a part of your staff, and you're going to have consistent turnover. That's just the nature of the beast. But you also have the luxury of saying, this is Ohio State, baby. Hey, come here. You're either going to get paid extremely well at your next gig, but you will be a national name if you come here and you do well. And those are kind of the opportunities that you see with the Virginia Tech coach Tyler Bowen coming over, who used to be at Penn State, Billy Fessler being promoted. And hey, good on Billy Fessler too, Dave, because Will Howard gave him a lot of props for his development. And CJ Stroud also gave some props to, I think he had mentioned Fessler too before, but a lot of credit to him for coming in and being part of the program.
Yeah, that said a lot. Will Howard, singling him out by name. And of course, Will Howard had that great 2-minute, thank you to Buckeye Nation. The epitome of a leader, Will Howard. That was really cool. All right. Nice segue on your part. Talking about guys wanting to coach for Ryan Day. I think I know what's going to happen with the defensive coordinator situation. But before I answer, it's going to be like when we do our score predictions. I'll let you go first. We have Eric on Facebook asking about it. What do you guys think is going to happen with the DC job? The offensive coaches were announced together, and they still haven't announced defensive coordinator, and there's a certain game on Sunday, I believe. Could they be waiting for that to end? J-Book, what do you think is going to happen?
I think it's going to be Joe Cullen of the Chiefs, the defensive line coach. Are you in the same area that I'm at, Dave?
Pretty much. I do think they're going to give Guerreri the co-defensive coordinator title as long as OG Walt's okay with it.
Yeah.
As long as OG Walt doesn't want to be, he's like, I don't, just give me the title, give me the money. Like, I don't care. I just want to do my thing, be the best recruiter, DBs in the country. I want to coach the DBs. As long as he's okay with it.
Yeah.
Because it spoke volumes to me what Ryan Day said at the celebration at the Horseshoe, as I've said on the show. Like, to say Guerreri is a rising star in our profession and one of the best young minds in college football, I was like, damn. He's talking about his future DC. So I think, and I've always heard good things about Guerreri. So I think it's going to be Cullen. Otherwise, why wouldn't they have announced something by now?
Right.
And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it'll just be Cullen. My prediction is it'll be Cullen, who will probably be the main play caller, but Guerreri will be heavily involved and he'll have the co-defensive coordinator title. What do you think?
And so the chat, if you're not sure what we're talking about, Joe Cullen is the current defensive line coach for the Kansas City Chiefs. There's been a lot of speculation that he's going to be the guy that they're going to probably name as the defensive coordinator after the Super Bowl. So that right there is another, big time selling point. He was like, hey, we got a guy who's been in the NFL for 18 years, has coached with Andy Reid, has won a Super Bowl ring. He's been a defensive coordinator prior to that, couple stints in college where he was a DC. And so I'm curious because you're bringing in Joe Cullen's a veteran. He's still in his 60s here.
He's 57, isn't he? I think he's 57.
Okay,
57.
So he's knocking on the door 60. My mistake.
Yeah.
And you're talking about a guy with incredible amount of experience. The question is will Larry stay or will ride off into the sunset? I mean, Larry has one more year.
I'm done predicting that.
Yeah.
I promised everybody because I kept hearing, oh, this will be his last year. This will be his last year. And I said, okay, I'm not even. He's going to stay till he's 100 years old. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, because you got Joe who's coming over, who is currently a defensive line coach. But I think the setup, how it has to be is if Joe comes over from Kansas City, I think he's going to be more of an overseer, similar to what Jim Knowles was, because Jim was able to bounce around from room to room. I think that's probably the setup that you're going to get here. But I tend to think Larry's going to stay because assistant D-line coach Lee Allen Clark is headed to Texas. So he took the Texas job because if you thought Larry was going to leave and Clark was good enough to be hired at Texas for their D-line coach, you would have just said, hey, just stay because we're going to go ahead and transition you into that role. You're already here. You already know the personnel. You already know what we're about as far as a program. So I do think Larry's probably going to stay this year, and I know his contract is up next year. But if that's the case, I do think that it would be wise to have some type of contingency, because when Larry's probably going to be there for 1 year, it's going to make it a little difficult recruiting wise. Because you're going into the living room and you're trying to sell these kids to, hey, come and play for me. But at the same time, this is my last year. So they had to have some type of contingency plan in the backup to say, hey, after Larry goes, this is who you're going to be playing for. We're going to make it a smooth transition from Larry to this guy. And hopefully that can help with as far as recruiting, because they still got a lot of work to do as far as getting some premier pass rushers, because you're losing a lot. You picked up a guy from the portal here. Kenyatta and Curry, they're getting up there as far as age. So if they have a breakout year, they're probably gone. And then Edric Houston was a guy who was recruited as far as an end. Now he's kicked into the inside. So your numbers as far as the premier pass rusher, it's a little thin in that room. And it's going to only make it a little bit more difficult if you know that Larry's only going to be there for 1 more year. But They 100% will give Larry that choice. Just looking at the way Clark went to Texas, it tells me that Larry's probably here for one more. And if you're Clark, hey, best of luck, man. You did some great work here. If you get a job offer by Texas to be on the field coach, you got to take that position to really spread your wings. I know he probably loves and appreciates what Ohio State was able to do for him. But if Texas is trying to pay you that type of money to go, coach their defensive line, that's a no-brainer. You have to take that job.
If it is Cullen, I kind of wish they already would have announced it so we would have actually a Buckeye to root for in the Super Bowl. So I don't like this matchup in the Super Bowl. No, how do we have a Super Bowl with no Buckeyes? I know Paris Campbell's on Philadelphia's practice squad, but that doesn't count. Like,
yeah,
because I love Paris Campbell. Paris Campbell made a really nice living in the NFL.
He did.
Really nice living. He's doing fine, and I love Paris Campbell. But it doesn't count if you're on the practice squad. That doesn't mean you're on the actual team. Maybe you'll get a ring if they win. So I guess maybe technically it does count. But, like, I can't believe we have a Super Bowl with no Buckeyes. And Cullen, though, sounds like, I don't know. What percentage would you put on it? Sounds almost like a done deal to me.
Yeah, I think that's
90s.
Yeah, the timing right now with no announcements kind of tips the hand to let you know this is what the deal is. You're not going to make an announcement for him while his team is in the hunt for the biggest trophy in all of football, which is the Super Bowl. So you're not going to be a distraction there. That's not the way to go. So I think it might be the guy. I think it's going to be Joe Cullen, no doubt about it, in my mind right now, unless there's something that changes. But everything that we're hearing, that's going to be the guy. Let me ask you this before we get off, Dave. Who you got? Kansas City or Philadelphia?
Player props. I'll pick. I'll pick the Chiefs just because I think Philly might have like a little bit better of a roster overall, but Andy Reid and Sirianni's done a good job. Obviously, you can say he's done a great job, but Andy Reid against Sirianni, advantage, and Hurts is great, but Mahomes is going to go down as the GOAT. I really believe that. I think if he wins. That's another cool thing about if the Buckeyes get Cullen, they'll have a guy that, was on the staff of the only team to ever win 3 straight Super Bowls if they win it. So that'd be cool if the Buckeyes do get Cullen. I'm picking the Chiefs to win, but I expect it just like 2 years ago. It's going to be a dogfight. What do you think?
I think it might be Philly, man. Or maybe it's just me hoping that it's Philly.
Yeah.
Because as you mentioned, like the Chiefs has been there, done that. Like it would be cool to see Philadelphia actually get a Super Bowl champion because they've come close so many times. And then you also got the whole history of Andy Reid being a former Eagles coach who got him to the Super Bowl that year with McNabb. And I think T.O. played in the Super Bowl with like a broken leg or something like that.
McNabb was puking and T.O. called him out for being out of shape.
Yeah. Hey, I was listening to your Bengals. Are you guys going to get the T. Higgins deal done or what, man? Or are you going to make a trade for the Browns defense and send T. Higgins up there?
There's no way the Browns are going to make a trade with them. There's no way the Browns are going to trade within the division and send Myles Garrett anywhere in the division. There's no way. They'll take a discount. They won't need to take a discount because he's signed for 2 more years. Whoever gets Myles Garrett will have to renegotiate the contract and give him an extension. But the Browns will get a nice package for it won't beat him my Bengals. But T. Higgins, to answer your question, when Joe Burrow wants something to happen, and he's been very vocal, he wants T. Higgins back.
Yeah.
Maybe something will happen. The salary cap continues to go up. They don't like to renegotiate, push contracts back, or that's what they need to do. They need to open up some money, like if Joe Burrow is willing to do that. But the Bengals are kind of weird about that. They're still very old school. All right, buddy. I've kept you longer than I intended, but I appreciate
it. Before we get off here,
yeah,
my Raiders, Chip Kelly.
How about that? And Pete Carroll and Chip Kelly. How about this?
Yeah. And I was saying, people were texting me. It was like, man, what do you think? What do you think? I was like, well, first of all, we finally have an adult in the room in Pete Carroll. I was like, the Raiders have been such a dumpster fire for the last 2 decades that finally having someone in there to stabilize the program is what they desperately needed. But I have to admit, I was absolutely shocked when I heard what the Raiders are paying Chip Kelly.
I know. $6
million.
We're
notoriously known for being cheap. I mean, the new ownership with Tom Brady and some of those guys, they must be all in, flushing that that program, because I know the Davis family. I'm shocked that they signed off on a $6 million offensive coordinator. Like, holy moly! But hey, if you're Chip, you were making 2 at Ohio State, and the Raiders offer you 6. That's a no-brainer.
Yeah, and they got that stadium a few years ago, and that was Al Davis's thing. He just never was able to get like that stadium, and
Yeah.
then they got it. I thought that they would just be spending money like crazy because they didn't have to pay for that stadium, right? Didn't the city of Las Vegas
Yeah.
pay for it?
Right.
When you get a free stadium like that, that opens up a lot of cash. So good for your Raiders, and I'm sure you root for the Cardinals a little bit too, being down there. Do you root for the
Yeah,
Cardinals a little
I
bit?
follow the Cardinals because they're, you always drive around the city, and it's always Cardinal stuff like that. And seeing Justin Fry get that job, and good for Justin Fry, man. He's been trying to get to the NFL. I mean, he's making more money in the NFL than he was going to make at Ohio State, and you don't have to have all of the recruiting traveling, so he'll be able to spend more time with his family, which he really wanted. So hey, good for him. That's why I think the Justin Fry situation was a win-win for both entities. That's where you can look at it and say, okay, Ohio State, he was able to squeeze every ounce of juice out of that offensive line to win a national championship with 4 guards and 1 tackle, and he parlayed that into a NFL offensive line position to where he's going to be making more money and be able to spend more time with his family. So that was a win-win.
I love the Buckeye flavor down there in the Valley of the Sun, not just yourself.
Yeah.
Now Justin Fry, but hey, we got Paris Johnson Jr. on the Cardinals. We got Marvin Harrison Jr. on the Cardinals, 2 great Buckeyes. So Cardinals, I've kind of adopted them as my second favorite team. So I'll be down there in a couple weeks. Maybe I'll get some Cardinals gear. All right, buddy. Thank you guys. Kept you too long, but great stuff as always. He's Mr. Jonah Booker. Thank you, Jay Book.
All right. Talk to you next week, man.
Sounds good, buddy. He's the man. I don't need to tell you guys that. Really appreciate Jay Book. We got a few minutes left here on the show. If you guys have any questions, pop them in there. If you've asked a question and we haven't got to it, pop it in there again because we've got a very large chat going. We'll let you guys know about Joy Mode and a great deal you guys can get. Joy Mode is the all-natural sexual performance booster, and we have a great deal for you guys. Joy Mode features just 4 simple, proven ingredients. Unlike prescription options that involve doctor visits and managing refills, Joy Mode provides a straightforward, effective solution. Join over 200,000 men who trust Joy Mode to boost their performance without any side effects. If you're looking to take your game to the next level, visit tryjoymode.com. Use code BUCKNUTS at checkout for 20% off single purchases and 30% off subscription orders. That's tryjoymode.com. Use code BUCKNUTS for 20% off single purchases and 30% off subscription orders. There you go. All right. Yeah, that's right. Robert says Joy Mode can get you Buckeye Wild. There you go. Buck Rational. Dave, any traction post Wednesday for getting G. Scott Sr. to stop back occasionally? Yes. If he first of all, he knows he has an open invitation. Second of all, he enjoys doing it. I think he wanted to lay low during his son's final year and just let all the attention go to G Jr., that's tough to do, especially when you're a guy who, is very articulate like Mr. Scott and likes to talk. I mean, what does he do for a living, right? What does he do for a living? He has a radio show in Seattle. He's also an auctioneer. And you guys hear he's the Buckeye preacher. So he likes coming on the show, and I've always loved having him on. And that was a lot of fun on Wednesday. Absolutely, we'll have G. Scott Sr. back on. Michael on Facebook. Will Tim Walton be happy if he's not a co-DC? I talked about this earlier. Ryan Day's not stupid. I'm sure if he wants to bring in Joe Cullen and then also promote Matt Guerrieri to co-defensive coordinator, and those guys will kind of be co-defensive coordinators, Cullen and Guerrieri, he would have to go to OG Walt and make sure that Tim Walton's okay with it. Have to. You have to keep him happy. And I don't know. I don't want to speak for Tim Walton. I mean, he's been a defensive coordinator in college. He's even was a defensive coordinator in the NFL. Not long. I think just maybe 1 season with the Rams, maybe 2 seasons. Maybe it was with a different team, but was a defensive coordinator in the NFL. Defensive coordinator in college. So he's been there. Maybe Walton's at a place where if the money's right, he's happy. He's at his alma mater. He's coaching DBs, and the money's right. Maybe he's okay with not having. He already has like a fancy title anyway, and maybe you can give him like assistant head coach or something like that. You know, there's always titles you can give to make people happy if they really don't want to be like the guy in charge. You know, give them the money, give them the title, and there's ways to make people happy. And Ryan Day's figured that out, so I'm not worried about it. I mean, he's had the only major whiff he's had was Kerry Combs. I'm not talking about minor stuff like Parker Fleming and stuff like that. The only major whiff he's had is Kerry Combs. He's really knocked it out of the park with all the other ones. So, yeah, I agree. Tim Walton's a team player. I'd be surprised. That's a thing. Like, it'd be easy right now. I thought initially he might promote both of them, meaning Tim Walton and Guerreri, and they'd be calling the defense. And then he'd bring in somebody from the outside as like to help out with the D-line or whatever it might be. But the fact that they have not announced anything yet tells me everything I need to know. As J-Book was saying, like what, and as you guys were saying in the chat, like it's like they announced the offensive guys like already, all of them, but they are waiting on defensive coordinator. Why? If it was Walton and Guerreri, they just would announce it. If it was just Walton alone, they would have announced it. If it was just Guerreri alone, they would have announced it. In my opinion, I'm not hearing this from sources. So this is one of those things that just makes too much sense. And they're waiting for the Super Bowl to end. Obviously, they're waiting for the Super Bowl to end, and it sounds like it's going to be Joe Cullen coming in here. And again, my guess is like he won't have full reign. Like it'll be, I think Guerreri is going to be heavily involved in play calling and everything else. And all the coaches are involved. We all know that it's a collaborative effort, but someone's got to be the play caller. And I don't know if that'll be Cullen or Guerreri or if they will collaborate. Someone's got to be the play caller, though. You can't really collaborate on play calling. Like in 2014, Luke Fickell and Chris Ash were co-defensive coordinators, but Ash called the plays, actually. Now, Luke was heavily involved in all of the game planning and everything else, but Ash called the plays. Someone's got to be the play caller. So, I don't know. We'll see what happens, but I think it just makes so much sense that Cullen's going to come in here and Guerreri's going to be promoted. So, there you go. Appreciate you guys. Another live audience, and really appreciate J-Book coming strong as he always does on a Friday. Hope everyone has a great day and a great weekend. Go Bucks.